What's happening, people? I'm here with the main man.
It's the champ.
Make sure you tune into Pep Talk UK, where it talks boxing and
big up.
Thank you, AJ.
Pep Talk UK.
Ladies and gents, for the fight fans locked in, for the football fans locked in, now it's time for some real talk on Pep Talk. Let's go.
Everyone talk good game, but it don't really faze me. The man that ain't mad like Max, the boy not murky like Ace B. And them guy whoppers lying on the back, balling like a baby.
Okay, cool. Oi, oi. Welcome to the Pep Talk UK Sports Podcast, the podcast that talks the major boxing and football news from around the globe. Real points of view from a real panel. Hashtag real talk on Pep Talk. Please subscribe to Pep Talk UK on iTunes and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share and comment. Now I'm your host Frankie B, and I'm joined with the man them. First up, I'd like to welcome the man with that French swagger, that vroom, that panache. It's my man Pascal. How you doing, bro? Pass Weezy.
Frankie B, I'm very well, you know. How are you keeping, my friend?
I'm doing well, mate. Just wanted to know a little bit about your trip to Barcelona, mate. Did you behave quite orderly?
You know, Frankie B, I would love to tell you the stories, but the podcast is a daily podcast between the hours. But let's just say we had a very entertaining time, and shout out to all the Boricuas.
Boricua, Barere. Fast, I'm going to keep it moving. You want to shout out your social media real quick?
Of course, Frankie B, I'll be moving to Barcelona very soon, but in the meantime, please catch me on Twitter at Pascal_Desad and Instagram.
Yeah, Pass Weezy. Right, now it's time to welcome back a man that bleeds red, a man that represents the cop. It's my guy, MJ. How you doing, bro?
Frankie B, MJ in the building. Frankie B, I'm actually super excited. I'm not just talking about the fact Liverpool...
You got a good draw.
We're talking Champions League semi-finals against Roma. But apart from that, Frankie B, I'd also like to give a shout out to Pro Beezy, because it was his birthday this weekend, Frankie B.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Get that under wrap. You know, when you get to my age, you keep it a secret, mate.
Listen, we're not exposing any ages on the podcast. It's ages of wisdom. That's what it is. We're not exposing any ages. But you know what, Frankie B? I'm super excited to discuss boxing, Adrien Broner, football, everything with everyone on the pod tonight. So let's go.
Yeah, my guy MJ. Now, finally, I'd like to welcome him back. It's fitting to welcome the man himself, the man that reps Boxing Africa and boxing news. It's my guy, Ken Buhari. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing great, man. What's going on?
Mate, we're all good, mate. You know, obviously there's a big card out in New York this weekend, and, you know, we had to check in with you because we know you got that info, brother.
Well, you know what? I tell you what, I'm looking at the main event like a pick'em, you know, so I'm really, really excited about it's been a good year for boxing, period. So, we'll see what happens.
Cracking stuff. You want to shout your social media?
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter, Kbuhari, KBOUHAIRIE, or check out Boxing Africa. That's Box Africa for all your latest boxing news from Africa and around the globe.
That's it. Wakanda forever.
That's right.
Right, guys. All right. Well, Ken's on the pod, and we got to talk about, you know, the major card, particularly the return of the entertainer himself, Mr. Adrien Broner. Now, once again, it's a chance for Adrien Broner to show that he's serious and convince the fans that he's still got a lot left in the tank.
You know, Frankie B, I'm not too sure about that. You know, I know that his last performances have not been particularly great, you know, and I'm just worried for Adrien Broner because, you know, that fight with Jessie Vargas is not going to be a very it's going to be a very difficult fight for him, because Jessie Vargas, first and foremost, he likes to come forward. He's a good, Mexican American fighter. He's got also very good amateur record. I've been fought 120 times, and only losing 20 times. And also in terms of the opposition that he's faced recently, he's fought the likes of Timothy Bradley, Manny Pacquiao.
He's lost to world level fighters.
He's got good experience, yes, of course. And I think at that level, the experience do shape you as a fighter. Win or lose, they do shape you. And unfortunately, if you consider where Broner has gone since he's lost, he's not improved anymore. Mentally, he still seems to be the immature Adrien Broner that he is, and the problems outside the ring are going to cause him major problems inside the ring. And whilst it's a very mouth-watering fight, if you told me about this fight a few years ago, before the decline of Adrien Broner, I would have been looking forward to that fight, and I probably would have given Broner the opportunity to win that fight. But to me, Vargas seems to be the more focused out of the two. He seems to be the boxer that takes his craft very seriously, that doesn't take the time off, that doesn't get involved in unnecessary...
That doesn't make mixtapes as well in between camps.
Exactly, or picks on 21-year-olds, rappers, and it's
I bet 200,000 that Broner loses.
It's just a big shame, because Broner came with so much promise. He's entertaining. He was a breath of fresh air for the sport, but unfortunately, he did not take the hard work ethic that Floyd Mayweather, made. Which Floyd Mayweather is famed for. Whilst he's famed for being the money man, his work ethic is also, legendary. And unfortunately for Broner, he was only concerned about the end product, which was the fame and the glory, and the hard work is not being done enough inside the ring and outside of the ring. So, I think it'll be a very entertaining fight. I can certainly see Broner will have to fight an inside fight, because he's better in the inside than he is on the outside. Yep.
But he struggles with pressure fighters, Broner.
Yes, he certainly does, because Broner is a counter puncher most of the time, and he can come forward when the opponents are not particularly world class level, and he likes to be quite creative with his punches. But I think that the likes of Vargas, who's been in the ring with very good fighters, would have learned from his defeats, and I think that will be a step too far for Adrien Broner. I can see him losing a unanimous decision fight. I do not believe that Broner will be knocked out. I think he's got the heart of a lion. Even though he's not as disciplined with his boxing, he's still a talented fighter. But the problem for me is that he's not dedicated enough, in developing his craft as a boxer, and he still relies on his natural talents, and hard work always beats talents for Kibi.
Ken, over to you. In terms of Broner, obviously lost against a P for P top 10er with Mikey Garcia last time out. Vargas is not as glamorous of a name, but nevertheless he's a tough fighter, and he also likes to come forward, which Broner struggles with.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think a couple of things. One thing that hasn't really been mentioned, but I believe this fight is at 144 pounds. So I wonder how that's going to affect Vargas at all, who's been at 147 for so long. But I know he's been training. He just fought in November or December, so he's been active. He's been training. He's been in Mayweather's gym, and apparently he looks good. Funny thing about Broner and his new trainer, I spoke to Kevin Cunningham about a year ago about Broner, and he said that he really felt that Broner was a person who could take over the mantle from Floyd Mayweather if he just got it together, like Pascal was saying. Yeah, he really felt that way. He said if he really put it together, he said, I've known him since the amateurs. He was amazing, and the thing is that, so it's funny to see them together now. Unfortunately, I just think that maybe Broner had the talent, but ultimately the things you do with your body, catch up to you. He's lived a good life, and I think it sort of shows in his training habits. And I don't expect to see too much of a different Broner from what we've seen in the past. So I got to go with Jessie Vargas.
And you know, Broner, he talked about his coach, talked about him being potentially a Mayweather if he gets his head together. I don't see that, you know, because I see Broner struggles to find the back foot. Definitely,
Right.
he's very flat-footed.
Right.
So I don't see the comparisons. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, for me,
I agree.
For me, he's got a lot to work on.
Yeah, and you know, I think a lot of the issues with Broner is that we haven't even seen the real Broner, because he spent most of his career, at least his career that we've seen on TV, trying to be Floyd Mayweather. So, you know, and not even the young Floyd Mayweather, the old Floyd Mayweather, the flat-footed guy, you know?
Yeah,
So we don't even know what the real Adrien Broner is. I don't even know if Adrien Broner knows who the real Adrien Broner is, but you know, he always good to see him in the ring. It's always entertaining, win or lose.
That MJ, the old Adrien Broner, gets himself into trouble, and now he's kicking off with a 21-year-old rapper.
Frankie
6
B, I
to
mean,
9. Yeah.
literally, the amount of times we've actually spoken about Adrien Broner on this podcast, and also actually this week as well, we had Badu Jack, we had Floyd Mayweather Sr. all come out and actually say, you know what, Adrien Broner is going to lose because we know it. So, like, I mean, listen with Adrien Broner, a leopard cannot actually change his actually spot. You know, the famous Adrien Broner, he used to call himself the can man, and he used to go, because anybody can get some. Americans, Mexicans, you know, that Adrien Broner was actually brilliant. So, like when you saw Adrien Broner come out when he was undefeated, he was an absolute. Listen, there is no doubt.
Them things. Yeah.
Listen, there is no doubt in his talent, but the trouble is, Adrien Broner has got about 3 different careers. He's an Instagram gangster. He also happens to be a rapper as well. Yeah. So, like, and he spends his time as well also actually taking pictures of his private parts when he's being entertained by 2 women at the same time. So, I mean, we're just talking about someone who we actually end up talking about less about the boxing. And this is the reason why Adrien Broner will probably lose. I mean, it just depends what Adrien Broner we're going to see. Is he going to let those hands go? Because the last few fights, he's shown up and he's fought against Porter, and he hasn't actually shown up to actually fight.
And Mikey Garcia as well.
I mean,
he said Mikey Garcia ran. I didn't see that. You know,
it's probably all get so frustrated with Adrien Broner. It's because
delusional,
someone
mate. Yeah.
talented just lets it go to waste. It's the fact that everyone tells him he's talented. He knows he's talented, and he just feels like he doesn't have to work for it. That, and also he might also need to see a shrink as well. But you know what? I'm actually going, Adrien Broner is going to lose this.
That's been news. Now, Ken, another guy that's on the same bill, a great talent, mate, from the Mayweather stable, Devante Tank Davis, mate. Is he going to make the weight this time?
I think so. I mean, I know he's also working with Kevin Cunningham, and Cunningham is a really, really good coach. I think that Devante Davis is young enough to where if he's focused, he can do great things. I don't know if hanging around with Adrien. Yeah, I don't know if hanging around with Adrien Broner is the right thing to do.
Yeah, they were training together, weren't they?
Yeah, you know what? They've been friends for a long, long time. It was Broner who brought Devante Davis to Mayweather.
Gym. Okay.
Yeah, and so you know they've been friends for a while. I don't know if that's the kind of guy you want to follow, but hey.
Well, he's following him, not making weight and not being serious, mate, in the build up to fights.
And at least he's not in his hometown. That's where he was when he didn't make weight, you know. They're in Florida in Cunningham's camp. I know the camp has been serious. I know that Davis hasn't taken any breaks. I can't speak for Broner, but I know Davis hasn't taken any breaks. And so I think you're going to see an improved fighter. He's got a tough test against Cuellar. I think Cuellar's going to pressure him, and I suspect that Davis doesn't really take too well to pressure. So we'll see, you know, how that goes. But I'm expecting him to shine. And let's not forget Jamal Charlo on that card as well. It's a stack. Ooh. It's a great card.
You don't want problems with Charlo. That's what they say.
No, not at all.
Now it's interview time. And this week, we have interviews from the boxing world and from non-league football. Now, first up, our man on the ground, Mr. Shaz Smack, the boxing nut. spent some time and caught up with a former women's boxing world champion who's fought the likes of Cecilia Brækhus and Michaela Lauren. It's Ivana Habazin, accompanied by the classical warrior, aka the boxing bassoonist, Hannah Rankin.
Pep Talk UK are honoured to be joined by a very, very talented young lady. It's Miss Ivana Habazin. How are you doing?
I'm fine, especially when you say young, because I'm not so young.
Well, I'm 24, so you are about my age, yes?
28.
I'm 41. Now, Ivana, you've had a good career in boxing so far. Tell our listeners where you're from, what country, and what your career's been like to date.
So I'm from Croatia, Zagreb. I started with professional boxing career before 8 years. 2014 I was IBF welterweight world champion, and after that I have a fight with Cecilia Brækhus, the best female fighter.
The first lady.
Yeah, the first lady. But I know I'm better than her, so I lose this fight by points. But it was too close. I think she has much more experience and everything, and we are in a small country, and I didn't got opportunity to prove my ability, or yeah. So after that I had a lot of problems and with injury, and I got surgery of my thyroid, and finally last year I coming back after 4 years, and now I am in process with to do much more fights. And before a month ago I became IBO middleweight champion, because I can wait Cecilia in welterweight, because she doesn't want to fight with me, but I want to fight with her. So
I will put in a word with Cecilia. I know Cecilia. I'll put in a word and say, Cecilia, we have a challenger. She's present in the States, training there. She's in a camp at the moment. Now, moving back before Cecilia, you won the IBF world title. How was that?
IBF world title, 2014. Yeah. It was really it was tough, because I'm going in Belgium against Sabrina Giuliani. It was her hometown, and I was sure if I don't knock her out, I will not win. But I was better, and I win, and that was one of the biggest victory for me. But the worst thing is that I lose this title too early. Yeah.
Now you also challenged for the WBC title.
Yes, against Michaela Lauren. Yeah, but especially in this fight, I was training hard, but I didn't know for this fight. I think I maybe got an offer a month and a half ago before a fight, and I really trained, but I wasn't good. And after when I lose this fight, I said I will never box again. So 5 months I was in Germany and work with refugees and no training and nothing. And when I start training after 5 months, I got the same symptoms in training like was in this preparation. So that was because I was sick with thyroid. I was always down. I sweat a lot. I was tired. My heart beating so much I couldn't breathe and anything. And after that, I make medical and everything, and I find out that I lose actually this fight because I was sick, so I want a rematch with Michaela too.
So we got Cecilia, we're waiting for Cecilia, we're waiting for Michaela,
and then it's Clarissa Shields.
And you want Clarissa Shields,
of course.
Just line them all up for you, one by one, all on the same day?
Only these three, and I can go and I can retire.
Now, you've got the IBO belt, what's next for you?
Next for me is I need to do defense against Nonitenge. So this is that will be my next fight in September this year. And I change my team, I change my coach and everything, so it's gonna be interesting to see how would I prepare, but I'm sure I'm gonna knock Nonitenge out.
I already think you've done something good. You came and you've been training with our very own Hannah Rankin, the boxing bassoonist.
Yeah.
How has training been with our Hannah?
Training was really good. They kill me.
That's not Hannah, that's Noel.
Yeah, that's
Noel
but
Cullen.
yeah, but Hannah is a really great woman, you know, and human being, and I have a really lot of respect for her, and I watching her now on training, she's in a great shape, and I think she will become a world champion soon in super welterweight.
Now, Hannah, Ivana said some very good things about you there. You've been up close and personal and punching each other. How good is Ivana?
Ivana's great, yeah. No, she's a current world champ and a former welterweight world champ as well, so I've been learning loads. It's great to spend time with someone who's a champion because you learn a lot from being around people like that. So it's been a fantastic experience for me, and I think we'll be working together a little bit more as well, which would be great.
Well, ladies, if you ever need a referee that is quite happy to stand in the middle and duck a few punches, I volunteer. Okay. So next time you want to punch up, let me know in advance. Yes. I'll wear my cricket helmet, my cricket pads, and American football jersey, and I'll stand in the middle of you two.
Yeah, but then we will not punch each other than you.
No. Well, ladies, I wish you the best of luck with both your careers. We at Pep Talk are grateful for both your time, and we wish you a fantastic 2018, and thank you for giving us the time today.
Thanks for having us. Yes. Cheers.
Thank you, Ivana, and thank you, Hannah. Cracking stuff. Finally, it's time to feature some non-league football. I went to visit a club with a long-term ambition. I was down at Biggeswade United to catch up with a very young chairman by the name of Chris Lewis. Oi, oi. It's your boy Frankie B, reporting for Pep Talk UK. We're supporting the lower leagues today. I'm at Biggeswade United with the big boss himself. The chairman of the board himself, Mr. Chris Lewis. How you doing?
I'm very well, Frankie. How you doing? It's good to have you here.
I'm doing well, mate. I'm just taking in a bit of lower league football. Fairly enjoyable. There's a lot of passion. I see a lot of passion on the pitch. Now, Biggeswade United, it's fair to say that it's probably been a bit of a up and down season, would you say?
It's difficult to say really, because as you say, the season has been a little bit up and down. I think the last 2 or 3 seasons we've had the ambition to want to probably move up higher in the division that we have done, but for various different reasons, some of which are in our control and some of which have been out of our control, it hasn't really happened. So it's one of those things that the club has got, as we were sort of chatting about earlier on, the club's got very much a long-term vision as to where it wants to get to, and within that, yes, we need to get out of this division, but if it doesn't happen, you know, within the next 6 months, it's not the end of the world, because our vision is very much longer term than that. I think at the start of the season we wanted to be in around the top 4. This season that hasn't happened for a few different reasons. One, because now the FA is open up, because this used to be a 1-team promotion. Only 1 team would get promoted from the division. They've opened that up to 2, and a lot of teams have basically just trebled or quadrupled their budgets in order to get out of the division. One of the teams in our division, who I won't say, but we know they've got a budget of around 1,300-1,400 quid a week budget, which at this level is crazy.
Money talks, eh?
Yeah, it does, and I think that somewhat has distorted the league a little bit. We obviously are putting our money into different areas within the club for the time being, which means that we can't put the money into the first team that we would ideally like to, and that has obviously meant that our performance during the course of the league has somewhat been affected. But I think if we can finish in and around 7th, I think that would be a reasonable progression. Each season over the last 3 seasons, we've bettered our best in terms of our league history. If we can do that again this year, it would still be progression. It's obviously just maybe not the rate of progression that we would like. But as I say, because we've got a vision that's very much more long term, we've got so many different goals off the pitch as we have on it that we want to get in place first before we really start mounting a challenge of climbing up the division. So for the time being, it's not the end of the world if we don't get promoted, but it's one of those things that is going to have to start really motoring soon in order for us to really sort of push on to the heights that we want to get to.
So you talked about a long-term vision. Within that, you've got it seems like you're building a strong back room. You've got a young team. You're a young chairman. You brought in a bit of a Spanish influence to the club. You know, you've got in a Spanish manager first and foremost, and you've also got a famous Spanish journalist. Can you just tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so Guillem Balaguer, who works for Sky Sports and has his own YouTube channel now and has written loads of books. He obviously wrote the Ronaldo book last year and wrote the book on Pochettino this year that's won awards last year for the Ronaldo book. He's come on board as our director of football. He's been here now since 2014, and he came on board very much with the view that he wanted to help try and build the club in a way that hasn't been done before, and I think that's very much aligns with what my vision was when I took over the club as chairman in January 2014. Because our ideas and our vision align, actually it made complete sense for him to come on board. So he basically heads up as our director of football, so he oversees everything football related within the club. So he brings in the coaches, he speaks to the coaches about players and building our academy. So when we started this whole project and Guillem came on board, we didn't have an academy. There was a previous youth team that was associated with the club, but the previous chairman, before I came on board, decided to cut ties with that. Since Guillem and myself have sort of collaborated, we've built a 14-team academy within 3 years. That will probably expand to about 19 teams next season. And the view within the academy is obviously to produce our players locally and breed them through into the first team and push the team on. Our under-18s have just won the Bedfordshire County Cup final.
Fantastic achievement.
Yeah, it is fantastic. I mean, considering the fact that the team they beat in the final, they beat them 4-0 3 seasons ago when that age group started. At under 16, they lost 20-0 in the league. So it's a bit of, I mean, obviously you've got players.
The tables have turned.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got players that have come and gone within that time, so the squad is different to what it was then. But that same age,
sweet revenge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, considering they're a local rival, it's always good to get one over on them. But yeah, Guillem obviously heads up that, is Spanish. Our head coach Christian Colas is Spanish. Our fitness coach is Spanish. Our head of academy Frank Constancio is Spanish. And it's very much not necessarily that that has to be the way, but obviously with Guillem's connections, he's very strong in his philosophy on football and how he wants the game to be played. And as a result, the structure of footballing within the club, from the academy all the way to the first team, is very much in that same mould.
Spanish mould, yeah.
So, I mean, without sounding too pretentious, it's almost like taking the La Masia philosophy and scaling it down to a non-league structure within what we can sustain. So that's very much the vision in terms of producing players locally. We just got to wait for those young players to come through and break into the first team and really have a significant impact.
So what about your post-game meal? Is it also Spanish?
No, that's a mixture of different cuisines. They have pretty good food, actually. I mean, some of the clubs you go to in this division, you have some a few. No, not even that. Some sausage rolls and some sweaty sandwiches. Whereas the Heather and Tracy and the other people within the backroom team that oversee the food, they have pretty good food. I think they've got pasta and meatballs after the game, and we used to when I started there, we used to pay, I think it was 30 quid a game for a platter of sandwiches that was just horrific, and we obviously turned that around and actually found that it was cheaper to produce decent food than it was to buy in some sandwiches. So the players have a proper meal after the game. They get fairly well looked after. So.
And we wish your team all the best for the rest of the season. I know next season's going to be even better. And way to go, United!
Thank you, my friend. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. All the best for the rest of the season. Come on, United. Now it's football time. So we're going to talk about the massive FA Cup semi-final at Wembley. Spurs versus Manchester United. Now, Pascal, there's been a lot of talk about Spurs being a good side, but they still haven't won a trophy. And as for Man United, they'll be hurting at their neighbours in Manchester, who just lifted the Premiership. So, how do you see this one?
Well, there's a lot at stake, Frankie B. Certainly because the defeat to West Brom has left a lot of Manchester United fans with a sour taste in their mouth. And also I believe that Spurs also have to finish the season in a strong fashion, because Chelsea are closing in on them in the league, and they're going to be a bit nervous, and now is the time for them to grit their teeth. But I think that the game, if I was to look at it from a betting perspective, the advantage will be with Spurs because they play at that stadium regularly. We've seen that Spurs have beaten Manchester United at that ground already this season in the league, so they're not going to be worried about that. We know that Mourinho doesn't play expensive football, he plays very contracted football, and he will probably try and get Spurs on a counter-attack. So I would give the advantage to Spurs in being the more attacking side. I think that the squad also favours Spurs. I think Spurs have got a better and balanced squad. I think that Mourinho is still trying to find his best 11 at Manchester United. He's not quite got that balance right. And I think that the momentum in that game to me is with Spurs, I think that Manchester United will find it very difficult to grind down the Spurs team that are desperate to finish the season on a high, and it's important for Pochettino to finish top 4 and to win a trophy, or to at very least to qualify for the final, because he needs to attract, more players for the following season. So I expect Spurs to edge it, and I can see it would not be, a free-flowing victory for Spurs, but I expect Spurs to win by 2-1 at the very least.
Yeah, so MJ, obviously Spurs are desperate for a trophy. Mourinho always seems to pick up something when he's building his sides.
Frankie B, this is actually a genuine 50-50, but I will totally agree with everything Pascal just said, and I'll actually edge Spurs slightly. Spurs were unable to beat they were unable to beat Brighton midweek. Harry Kane did score his 26th goal, but then they got pegged back late on in the game, so they were unable to beat Brighton, and that follows on from a loss from Man City. And obviously, United haven't beaten Man City. Mourinho did actually call the fact that he thought his team were going to lose to West Brom beforehand, because he said after they beat City, they were celebrating and the players were almost gliding in training, that they felt after this amazing comeback, they were emotionally drained, and you could see they couldn't get up for the West Brom game. But this is a total different animal. It's an FA Cup game. It's one leg and it's in Wembley. And for that reason and that reason alone, I'm going to give Spurs the edge going ahead, but this is a genuine 50-50. It's anyone's game. It's the FA Cup, the magic of the cup, and it's that one tie. Anything can happen. I'm not sure how you see this one, Frankie B, but I'm going Spurs to probably nick it in extra time.
Do you know what? I want to go for Man United. I think Mourinho, when it comes to these situations, he usually figures it out. He doesn't like to finish the season without a trophy, and knowing Mourinho, he's going to try and stifle Harry Kane, stifle the supply to Harry Kane, and he's going to push Sanchez forward, he's going to push Lukaku forward, and he's going to try and pin Spurs back, and I believe he'll come up with some sort of tactical plan to defeat Spurs. And I think in these big pressure games, Spurs, you know, as well as they progress, they're lacking a bit of experience. So Mourinho's tactical approach to the game was going to be vital, and I see Man United winning 2-0.
But Frankie B, the fact that Spurs are now getting acclimatized to the Wembley Stadium, you know, it's their stadium. Manchester also have to travel from Manchester to Wembley Stadium. Don't you think that Spurs have got the advantage?
It's not just that, for me as well, like what I actually see, we all remember the league game at Wembley, where Spurs actually scored the quickest goal they've scored all season. It was completely crazy. From the kickoff, it was a big kickoff for Harry Kane to win the flick on, and then they got a goal from that, literally in about 11 seconds. It's completely ridiculous, and after the United goal, they pretty much tried the same tactic. It just seems as if, like I said, it's a genuine 50-50, Frankie B. But I'm not sure how you see this based on what Pascal just said.
Like I said, I'm not changing my mind. I do believe Mourinho, like I said, he's won the Champions League. He keeps telling us that he's won 8 league titles. So, you know, the guy knows how to win, and he can install that winning belief in his players. So Spurs, they're gonna struggle to cope with that. Anyway, that's our time. I'd like to thank Ken Buhari. I'd like to thank Pascal. I'd like to thank MJ. Join us again next week for another Pep Talk UK podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave your comments in the box below. Thank you.
Pep